Well, I'll put a copy of the notes on there. The PDF. Like, I'll put a PDF of the notes on there, too, that she could open up. I forgot to record till now, so go look at a copy of the notes. Sorry.
Hello.
You should use your... Here's what you... Like, you shouldn't expect that your teacher always records your notes for you. Like, it's a very... It is a luxury that this teacher records notes for you, because no other math teacher in this building records notes for kids when they're absent. So you have to just copy from someone else, the old-fashioned.
Ew.
So looking at this, even if this wasn't marked, you should be able to count that and say that the radius is 2. What about on this one? They don't give me the center, but could I find the center? I'm just looking at that point. I'm over 1 and up 3. Which means, do I need this 0.33 when I write my equation in my circle? No. It doesn't go in my equation at all, because I leave x and y in my equation. So don't make the mistake of using 3 as your center. That's it. X minus h squared plus y minus a squared equals r squared. So, h x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. So when I look at this and I see a minus in front of both of those, I know that they're really positive, so the formula is a minus. Sometimes going backwards is a little tricky. Don't yell the next answer out, but I was going to have you get on Socrative and type in that code that we always type in. It is something. So look on the next page and go ahead and see if you can figure out the answer. So as soon as we can get on the site, we'll just click on it right once. Socrative.com and just hit student. Just hit student login. Socrative.com. Socrative.com. Why do I have this stuff? Derive. It's a math code.
I get it.
Well, I just was trying to teach them not to do drugs. It's my life. So, you can just click on the right answer without yelling it out, and then I kind of see you get the idea of this before we move on. I can't. When I just did quick question, like I could make the actual real question and make like a quiz, but I can just hit quick question so I can see the results without actually having to type in the choices. So it gives 5 choices, but hopefully you can just don't pick as your choice. Hopefully you're there at Socrative.com. Just have to type it in, and hopefully you can pick the right one. Multiple choice, it's easy to get mixed up and choose the wrong one. So just be really careful about plugging your numbers in.
They're usually hysterical.
9 and 14 have 10 and 14 so far, 100%. close? Anybody not there?
Well, that means actually.
Oh, what's wrong?
What's happening? Why is this like?
So kind of two things you have to look at here. The radius squared. So you shouldn't pick A or B because it has to be 4 squared. So you should be down to either C or D. The other part you have to remember is that it's x minus h squared. So it's the opposite sign of what's here, right? So if this is 2, in my formula, it's going to be minus 2. And if this is negative 4, when I plug it in, it's going to change minus a negative to a plus 4. So C. C is the right answer. Who knows? Alright, we're going to come back and do another one in a minute, so you can shut them or you can just leave them open, whatever you want to do. Here's the other thing that we want to be able to do is what if they have to make you do a little bit more work? They don't just give you the center or you can't just look and see the center. And so this one says, write the equation of a circle that has its center at -3, -2, and passes through the point 1, -2, which means we're missing the radius on this one, right? That is the, that's the form. Just like y equals mx plus b is the form that we like to have to graph linear equations. That form, x minus h squared, yeah, because like when it's in that form, it's easy to graph because we can graph the center or we can graph the radius, and we're going to do that in a minute. But on this one, if they don't give you the radius length, you have to find it. Sometimes it's going to be easy, like this one, that we don't really need the distance formula. But if it's not a vertical or a horizontal line, you can't just count the spaces, right? You might get really close by guessing, but you have to use the distance formula. Does anybody remember the distance formula? If I roughly graph this, -3, -2 as my center, and it passes through the point 1, -2, that's just a point on my circle, so I could be like, oh, that looks something like that. That's very winging it. The nice thing is, if they give you a horizontal or a vertical line, you can just count how far it is, right? So from -3 to +1, how far is that? 4. But if they gave you a point like over here, and you had to find that distance, you can't just count it. So you could do the Pythagorean theorem, where you could go over and up and find the difference. That's where the distance formula comes from, is the Pythagorean theorem. Because to find this distance, you would subtract the x's. To find this distance, you would subtract the y's. And that's where the distance formula is. So you might want to write this down because you're probably going to need it. That the distance between 2 points is you're going to subtract the x's and square them. So x2 minus x1 squared. That would be like the horizontal distance if you made a triangle out of that. And you're going to add that to subtracting the y's. That would be the vertical distance. y2 minus y1 squared. And then you're going to take the square root of it because that would give you the hypotenuse squared. So we don't need to do the distance formula on this problem. But if it's not a vertical or horizontal line, you have to do the distance formula. But on this one, we just know the radius is 4 and the center is here. And if you have those two things, you just plug it in. So it's just x minus -3 squared plus y minus -2 squared equals what? 16, because the radius is 4, which is 16. This can make you annoyed. I don't really know why I put this one here. I think just because I had a square root in it. But hopefully we're feeling pretty good about this. On this one, they give me the radius, right? As a square root of 17. What's my center? Well, remember x is first, right? So it's -2 over, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, -4 down. Remember, x, then y. So again, this one, not so bad. People freak out when it's a square root, but what happens when you square a square root? It cancels out. So when it's an ugly radius, it's really okay in your equation, because that's just going to be 17. So I think this would just be x plus 2 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals the square root of 17 squared is just 7. So I think I can reset this question and do it again. The next one. And then we'll graph on the beta. So if I reset it, it should be, you might have to refresh the screen if it's not. Again, really nice when it's multiple choice, but really easy to kind of pick the wrong one. So make sure, look at your radius, because 2 of them have one number and the other 2 have the other one. And then look at whether they should be pluses or minuses. Is kind of what you're looking at on this. And since there's graphing on your homework today, I need to the wrong answer at first. I did not see my stat. But I thought people were picking the wrong answer at first. I will. Oh, now they will answer. I was looking incorrectly because since there's choice E, I was checking that you picked the last one, only it wasn't the last one on mine because it was E. It's throwing me off. Because square root of 15 squared is 15, so it's either A or D. Since you can see the center, they're both negative. When you plug in a negative with a subtraction sign, it's going to make them both positive. So D is the right answer. So the other thing that we want to be able to do with circles is we want to be able to graph given the equation. My circles tend to sometimes look like footballs or eyeballs because it's kind of hard to make a perfect circle. But I want to show you what I want to see on this. All you got to do to graph is know the center and know the radius. So given this equation, and it says state the center and the radius, so that's good too. Allie says 2, -3. Does anybody disagree with that? It's tricky, right? I think I agree with you, Alice. Right? And so because the formula has a minus in it, most of the time our formulas don't have subtraction signs in it, right? This is like the first one ever, I think, that we've had where there's a subtraction sign in the problem. So h is always the opposite of what it looks like. So it says x minus 2, but that means h was really just 2, right? Think about when we plug 2 in there. And k, since it's positive here, that means it was minus a negative. So the easy way to remember it is your center take the opposite sign of what's in those parentheses, and that will always work. So my center is 2, -3. So I'm going to come over here and make a dot. The other thing that I need to know is my radius. And if they give me that this is 4 in my equation, what do I do to that to find my radius? You take the square root of it, right? Because this is the radius squared. So to find the radius, you take the square root of it. If this is not a perfect square, like the one that we did with square root of 15, you're just going to have to do a decimal, right? Which I know I preach a lot about no decimals, but you have to graph the square root of 15 is a little bit less than 4, so you would go a little bit less than 4. So it's going to be, it's a sketch of your graph. So we want to go a distance of 2. It's hard to do that as a slanted line. So, but could I go up 2 and down 2? Would that be like the top and bottom of a diameter? So I'm going to go up 2 units and down 2 units. Where else could I go? I can go left and right 2 units. And then I want to try to make a circular graph, and I know, especially if you make your own graphs, if they're not equally spaced, it's going to look weird. And even when they are pre-made for you, it's sometimes hard to make a lovely graph. I tend to go like, do the top half, and then I do the bottom half. And it still kind of looks like an eyeball sometimes. And so you just want to try to be as accurate as possible. I mean, the best way to be accurate would be to use a compass, but they're a pain, right? So that's the idea with this, and we're gonna do some more graphing with our circles tomorrow, because I'm gonna give you a little circle project. Yeah, you're done with your Chromebooks. So there's only 11 questions on this worksheet. I want you to do all of them. Don't forget that you can retake homework quizzes. We're getting a lot for this chapter. We're going to have a test probably Wednesday next week, so you want to make sure that you can retake anything you want to retake before then.